أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May peace and blessings be upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his entire household and companions. It's a pleasure for me this morning to be invited to the midst of my fellow brothers to interact with ourselves and rub minds on how to be the best of men in our homes, in our respective homes, to our respective spouses. And no doubt, what should have been the first lecture this morning was to set the pace for us, giving us the templates of the kind of man that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to his family. No doubt, our realities differ, because my topic is about the marital concerns. Our realities. So our realities differ because we live in different worlds. We have different spouses, different character. But irrespective of these realities, one common factor is that the household of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is nearly similar to everybody's household. So if you want to talk about wives disobeying their husbands, the Prophet had them. You want to talk about wives, co-wives plotting against one of their own, it happened. You want to talk about wives, complaining about finances of their husbands. He has it in the Prophet's house. Some of his wives complain about his finances. And there are several verses of the Quran that address this. So the point of Allah to tell them in kuntunna turidna al-hayata dunya wa zinataha. If it is the life of this world that it glitters that you want, Allah says, I will give you. But if you want the akhirah, then you have to be patient with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to talk about wives rebelling against their husbands. Yes, he has them. Some of them actually rebelled against him, to the point where Almighty Allah had to threaten them. If the Prophet should get angry to the point where he divorces you, Allah will marry for him wives that are better than you in all ways. You want to talk about Subhanallah al-Azim. One of his wives, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, was accused of infidelity. And the story was spread by the Munafiqun to ridicule the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you talk about scandal, it actually happened, though it was a grand plan by the Munafiqun, but there was scandal in his household, among several other things. So whatever reality you are living in with your spouse, one thing we must understand is that the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was made a perfect template by Allah for us, so that we can live our life just like he lived with his household. The truth of the matter is that 20, 30, 40 years ago, the realities of marriage at that time are quite different from what obtains now. And the reason is this. Then, most men have 100% power over their households to decide what is happening in their home. I don't want to say it was more of a misogynistic society, but it's close to that, especially anybody that was born in the range of the 80s, 90s, at that time, women really do not have much decision to make in their husband's house. And I take, for example, there are so many of our fathers who would assign their first wife or the eldest of their wives, usually the first ones are the eldest, to be in charge of the younger ones, in charge of distributing food and other things. In fact, sometimes they cook together. When the first wife cooks, the other wives will have to go and take their food from the first wife, among other things. But nowadays, the realities have changed. Things have now changed because of some movements that claims to emancipate women. Yes, such women need emancipation, that's the truth. But then it is not as general as it's being said. Take, for instance, this day, a couple of days ago, there was a lecture by someone here in Ilorin who claimed that any woman who washes her husband's clothes with the washing machine, that her children will lack barakah. You see, these are some of the things that Many women were told in those days, and they were practically enslaved, practically enslaved, practically enslaved. They had no choice. They must not express their emotions. Once they are married to their husbands, whether they survive there or not, it is not the business of their parents. You are there, you are there. You don't come back home. You don't come and daddy mosu, among other things. But today things have changed. And especially with the fact that all our lives now are on the social media. Practically, some people live on the social media. Practically, they live on social media their entire life. And the proliferation of unprofessional counselors. You open your Facebook page, and the first thing you read is somebody advising women or advising men. And this person is not even a counselor. He's not even a professional counselor. He has no religious background, nothing. All he does is just to talk, based on what he thinks. But let me just itemize a few things that I feel are some of the concerns of our wives. So I will speak from the wife's perspective first, and then I will speak from the husband's perspective. What are the concerns of our wives? I am married to 3 women. So when I say concerns of our wives, I think I'm more qualified than a lot of people here in terms of the experience I've had. Number one is poor and ineffective communication. The truth of the matter is that the economic reality of most of us, what we have to go through every day, trying to put food on the table, especially these days where you go to the market and the price have skyrocketed, is actually affecting our communication with our wives. Our wives want to have, let me put in quotes, talkative husbands. Talkative husbands. Husbands that will always talk to them about even the tiniest of things. Let me tell you that when I got married, there are certain things that my wife pick up fights with me, but which personally I found to be silly. Let me put the word silly. And this is the fact that I come back from work, I'm tired, I want to shower, I want to eat, I want to go out to the masjid and pray, then come back and sleep. But this woman wants me to give her full gist of everything that happened, including maybe a mosquito that passed through my ear and sang a song that made the music. And, your refusal to do this makes her think that you are narcissistic, like you're a narcissist. So women, because they are prone to emotion more than they are prone to logic, they tend to pick fights over these tiny things. But irrespective of the burden of our work and the time we have to still out there struggling to make ends meet, I think we need to improve on our communication skills. And what do I mean? There are practically 3 types of men. Number 1, the present absent. Number 2, the absent present. Number 3, the absent absent. Oh, then number 4, there's a 4th one, the present present. What does this mean? A present husband is a man who is physically present in the home and also is present with his family in terms of communication, verbal communication or non-verbal communication. Part of communication is just maybe lightly smacking your wife, pecking her, hugging her. Women love to be eat slightly on their bum bum whenever they're in the kitchen, for instance, tickle her. These things are non-verbal communication. Women cherish them a lot. I can tell you that there are times my wife and I will be fighting that we will not talk to each other probably for a couple of hours or for a whole day. And then I come back and after taking my shower, I go to the kitchen, give her a little bit, tickle her, and wallahi, that fight is done. We are gone past the fight. It's as if we didn't even fight. So then there are men who are present absent. They are present physically, but they are either on their phones, chatting or making calls, or they are just quiet to themselves, not talking to their wives. Our wives always want to know how we feel. They want to know what is happening in our lives. So there should be part of us that tell them, that thing they want to hear, including even if it is lying. One of the 3 permissible lies in Islam, the hadith of Messenger of Allah sallallahu that says, lying is not permissible except for one of 3, is a man who lies to his spouse to please her. Just cook up something and tell her just to make her happy. So then there is also the absent man. Some men, the moment they get to their office or they travel, that is the end of the communication with their wives. No, this should not be. Even while you're at work, always steal a few minutes, chat your wife, have video call, send her your picture, joke with her. Have you seen a more handsome man today? Things like that. They keep women alive with us. So we have to create time for that. So don't be an absent husband. And then finally, some men are absent present. So some men, even when they are not at home, they are still present with their wives because they communicate a lot. They call them on phone, they chat them, they do video call and other things. So the best of men are the present man and the absent present man. The worst of men are the absent man and the present absent man. So communication is very important. And part of the complaints of our wives about communication is that sometimes we do not communicate with them to listen. Rather, we communicate with them to respond. And women don't find this funny at all. Sometimes don't argue with your wife and then just prepare an answer in your mind that anything she says, you have a ready-made answer. Sometimes, even when there's an answer, just overlook it. Just do as if, well, you agree. And then you can address that later. Some men actually don't want their wife to win an argument, and it is really not cool, not all the time. There are times you allow your wife to win an argument. Remember Aisha and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they had a disagreement, and the Prophet said, let us call Umar. Aisha said, no, let us call Abu Bakr, my father. And the Rasul didn't have any objection to that, despite that he knew Abu Bakr was Aisha's father, but he believed Abu Bakr was going to be just. So the point is that it is not all the time we have a conversation, an argument with our wives, a communication that we should always have a prepared and ready-made answer in our minds. Sometimes you allow women to win, and they love it when they win. They love it when they win an argument. So this is number one, poor communication. Then number two, and this is also very important, is about finances. You see, the truth of the matter is that our finances these days are restrained by the high rate of inflation in the market. I personally run the errands for my household. For the 3 houses, I run the errands. I go to the market myself to buy the things myself. Yes, sometimes women want to overstretch your finances. So they tell you, this is exactly what you're going to buy. There was a time I gave one of my wife's money to buy rice. They said there's no rice in the house. And at the time, a pinch rubber of rice was just about 6,000 plus or 5,000 plus. But this woman ended up buying 1 kilogram of basmati rice for 16,000. Now, imagine a kilogram of basmati rice that we cannot eat more than 3 times. And imagine how many pinch rubber of rice you would have bought from the 16,000. And then after 2 weeks, she came and told me that rice has finished. So I think it is important for us to regularly have a discussion with our wives about our finances. Sometimes we take loans from our workplaces. We don't carry our wives along. And then when they ask us for money, we react. And they really don't find it funny because we didn't tell them we're servicing loans. You don't have to tell your wife how much you earn. It depends. Some men don't trust that their wives would help them manage their money. The more they know you earn, the more the bukata they bring. But there is nothing wrong if your finances are strained, and then you tell your wife that my finances are strained at the moment. This is what I can afford. And there is nothing also wrong in adjusting. You see, you are living in a 3-bedroom apartment before, but then your finances are not strained. Then what is the point? Why not move to a 2-bedroom flat apartment after discussing with your wife? So our wives feel we are not carrying them along in terms of our finances, and then we complain a lot whenever they ask for the basics. Okay, take for instance, I have to buy salad clothes for 3 different daughters of somebody's or some people's daughters. Anyways, I have to buy salad clothes. And currently I know that, well, unless some miracle happens, I will not be able to keep up with the bills. Everybody, one of them has submitted the bill to me. But how do I keep up? Only Allah knows how I'm going to run that. And then they also expect me to buy a salad round. But one thing I've always done is that at any point in time, and my wife will always say, it is only when you don't have money that you tell us. When you have money, you don't tell us. Well, at least I'm carrying you along when I don't have money so that you don't have to bill me extra. So discussing our finances is also very important. Then the third thing, complaint from our wives, has to do with the fact that we also do not forgive the little mistakes that they make. We usually hammer on them, and then when they do good things, we don't commend them. So commendation is the third point, commendation. As a man, yes, you have your right to complain when your wife is not up and doing with some things, but then we should also know that commending them when they do what is right goes a long way. How do we commend our wives? Especially if you, and the thing is, it doesn't really take much. Well, I just gift. Women like gift a lot. When they cook meal for us, we should commend their cooking skills. Thank you very much, my dear. This is the best meal I've taken ever. See, even though they know you're lying, but still they appreciate it. You appreciate her beauty in the house. You appreciate the way she's up and doing, especially taking care of the kids, among other things. So commendation, appreciation, such that even when you complain about the things they do wrong, then they will find a place in their hearts to just overlook it. And then when you even come to complain, I think we should also try to lower it, except for things that are strictly fundamental. Women often, there are words now that have been coined into this word. They say nagging. So a man complaining about what his wife has done wrong, they say he's nagging. If that is nagging, I don't care. Nagging is also permitted, because nagging is not a gender-based thing. Women can nag. A man should also be allowed to nag. But you see, because traditionally a man is expected to bottle in things. A man is not expected to speak out, to cry out, to complain. Only women have been given that traditional right that they should complain. As for men, they are to bottle things up. So as a man, don't bottle things up, but don't make the complaint to be too much. But most importantly, commendation. Always commend your wife. And the ways you can do that is through gifting, just minor things, tangible things. You don't have to go expensive. Women love being gifted and being commended. And then another thing our wives have also complained about is our lack of balancing between them and our immediate family. That's talking about our wives and our mothers and siblings. The truth is that as a married man, you are more indebted to your wife than you are to your parents, especially if your parents are not needy. If your parents are not needy, even in terms of the scale of preference of who should I spend money on first, my parents or my wife, your wife comes first because she's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. Then your parent comes after that. So this is what the ulama have said. This is what the ulama have said. But in most cases, the feel we tend to tilt towards our mothers, especially, than we tilt towards them, to the point where some wives now see their mothers-in-law as co-wives that they fight with. How can you explain the fact that a mother is sending meal to her son in her husband's, in his house, that a mother comes and is supervising the meal the wife is cooking for her son, that a mother goes into the kitchen and will taste the meal first before her son, among other things. So we should not try to create this fight between our wives and our mothers. We should try to balance it up. Let our mothers know their places as our parents, and let our wives also know their places as our wives. And especially as Ilya is coming, there are some of our wives who complain that we do take them home to be overworked by the wives of our siblings and our parents, among other things. So I think as Ilya is coming, one of the things we should learn to do is, instead of overworking our wives, let us employ ulupos to do the dirty jobs, while the wives will only do the cooking job. Not that the wives will be the ones to be sorting out the intestine and all these things. Let ulupos do that, and then let the wives just cook the meal, and then they enjoy the salad as well. Not that they will be overburdened. Another point is, when you have more than one wife, you see, one major problem that many men have is that many of us marry a second wife to spite the first wife. Wallahi, this is a very wrong premise, and I can speak for myself. I do not marry another because I hate the one in the house, or because the one in the house is giving me a headache. If she's giving me headache, I will settle it, in a different way. You can't use women to settle scores. And as a result of using women to settle scores, we end up spilling the secrets of the first wife to the second wife. And then by the time we spill the secret and this one comes in, fight begins, and she begins to tell the one in the house stories that that never happened while she was married to you, and this creates a problem. So we must learn to keep the secret of each wife secret. Personally, none of my wives have access to my phones. Some of you allow your wives to have access to your phones. Well, no problem. If it works for you, that's your reality, but not for me. Because each of my wives has a discussion with me on WhatsApp. Take, for instance, WhatsApp, right? And then the other one has access to the phone and is seeing what I'm discussing with this one. It doesn't make sense. You'll be creating a war in your own house. So let your wives know that none of them has access to your private life with another wife. Whatever happens in this house stays there. Don't go here and be telling this one what happens. No. And don't do transfer of aggression. One wife is giving you headache, you're transferring it to the other one. No, don't create unnecessary competition among your wives. So live a private life with each of your wives and let each of them enjoy their marriage to you. Another thing is that when some of us put our wives together, well, I have seen the good and the bad, and I will tell you that unless you have separate apartments with separate parlor, separate kitchen, separate toilet to each of them, do not put women together under the same roof where they share the same kitchen or the same parlor, unless you're one of the very few that have been blessed with Jannah aspirants. There will always be an ill-healthy competition. Unhealthy competition will always be there. Now, imagine you have a wife who is like a cat, who likes to always be around you. And then the other one, personally, she is not used to something like that. And then she walks into the living room and saw this one with her head on your lap. So what are you creating? Naturally, women are created to be jealous. So we should not fuel that jealousy. So let me just stop there about the complaints of our wives. The complaints of the husband, because of time, is that number one of the complaints. Okay, thank you. Time on me to go. So one of the complaints we have against our wives is disobedience. It is very rare to have a woman that doesn't have that trait of disobedience. And the reason is that Messenger of Allah Sallallahu said, women are created from the left side of the rib. And the left side of the rib from which they are created is the uppermost one, which is the most crooked one. So if you want to straighten it, you rather break it. But if you leave it as crooked as it will remain as it is. So be patient with women. So women have been created in a crooked manner, and that is just the truth of the matter. In fact, the Prophet referred to them as naqisatul aqli wa din, that they are mentally deficient, and this is the truth. Women are closer to emotion, like I mentioned earlier, so they are always on the edge, and any little thing sparks their emotion, and they become irrational. So we, the men, have to learn to deal with this, but that is a major complaint we have against our wives. We need to learn to deal with this. No matter how much of good you have done to a woman, the Prophet said, when she sees something from you that she detests, she will say, Ma ra'aytu khayran minka qat. You have never done anything good to me in your life. It is the hadith of Prophet. So women are bound to be ungrateful. And that's why he said, Ya nisa tasaddaqna, women give charity. Yeah, you are the most resident of hellfire is among you. And they said, why? He said, because takfur al-ashir, you are ungrateful. You are so ungrateful. What lana, and you curse so much, you insult so much. So women are naturally ungrateful. No matter how much you have done for a woman, do not expect that she has to be grateful for it. If she is grateful, fine. If she is not, accept what you have done as an act of ibadah and let it slide. If you want to bank on woman's ungratefulness, wallah, you will never do one good thing for your wife. You never do one good thing for your wife. So if that is how women are created to be, and no matter Allah said, men and women are not the same, then I think we just have to accept them for who they are. I'm not saying we should enable them, not leave them to be like that, but constantly admonish them about being grateful, but do not expect it. Just know this is how they have been created. Then the number two complaint we also have, against many of our wives is that they tend to undermine our authority in the house, especially when it comes to kids. Speaking from a personal perspective, I advised a brother the other day who told me that the wife is so disobedient, he wants to divorce her. I asked him the simple question: does she have kids for you? He said, yes, 3 kids. I said, you will destroy your kids if you are to go on with this divorce plan. You will destroy your kids. Bring your wife, let me talk to her. You know why? Because the kids are still young, and by the Sharia rule, unless there's a compelling reason why those kids cannot be with their mom, they will be with their mom until at least the age of 7, which is the sin of tamyiz, the age of differentiation, when they will not be asked, who do you want to be with, whether your father or your mother. Now, imagine a woman that has been with a child for 3-4 years only, and she probably even denied you of visitation, of seeing your children. You are not with them 24/7. Who do you think the child will pick? Who do you think the child will pick? Now, within these years of the child being with the mom, do you know the kind of training that she will be giving the children? Will she give the children the kind of training you as a father wants to give them? So when it comes to our children, women naturally feel that they love these kids more than we love them, especially in the polygyny. They will begin to compare and say, you love the children of their co-wife more than you love their own children. And as a result, they begin to keep the children to themselves. And if you are not careful, honestly, you may just lose the authority in your house. So it is very important. Our women also need to work on this. It is natural for everybody to love one thing more than the other. Even women themselves, they love some of their bags, some of their shoes, some of their clothes more than they love the others. So there is nothing wrong in loving a child more than the other, but as a parent, you must be just to all of them. Love is not something you can control. The Messenger of Allah, whenever he divides things amongst his wife, will say, oh Allah, this is the best of my ability. Forgive me for what I have no ability over. And that is in terms of affection. You can't determine affection. You can't control it. It's a natural thing. So women tend to be disobedient when it comes to children. And especially if you also marry a woman who had children from her previous marriages. One of our brothers recently wrote that he would advise single brothers to marry single sisters than to marry sisters who have children, who have previous marriages, or even have children from their previous marriages. And this is the truth. Coping with the emotion of a woman who was previously married will not be easy for a single brother who has never been married. No, it only takes the grace of Allah. Because she's in a new marriage, she'll begin to compare notes. What happened in her old marriage, what is happening now. Then when she has children, the attention will be on the children. So one has to try to balance this up. But like I mentioned earlier, once you know that this is who women are, try to manage the situation. So once we're present with our kids in the house, anytime we're in the home with them, let us ensure that we play with the kids maximally. Personally, I play with the kids to the point where I want to believe that if I were to play a game with my wife now, that you stand there, I stand there, let the kids come, who will the kids run to? I'm sure they will run to me because of the way I play with them. In fact, in my house, my children always eat with me. They will wait until I return. They will say, we'll eat to our daddy, and we'll eat from the same bowl. So I think we should create that bond. Our women always complain that we do not create the bond with the children. We don't try to bond. So it is important that we work also on this. Then another point is anger issues. Some of us have short fuses. And when we get angry, we say statements that women will forever remember, and it hurts them. So I want to also admonish us that no matter the anger, no matter the level of anger, please let us try to control what we say to our wives. There are some of us who our wives were so lovely that even the secrets of our own family, she told us. She told us about her father, about her mother, how her father treated her mother, and how you are treating her better than her father ever treated her mother. And then you hold that, and then the day you have issues with her, you begin to insult the father and how, okay, sir, and how the father didn't even do as much as you're doing. I used to have someone who said that to me, that asked her, she herself told me that her father did not do 1% of what I'm doing to her for her mom. And so, you see, it's very terrible. So we should try to control our emotions whenever we get angry. It's natural to get angry. Even the Rasulullah got angry. Can you imagine that one day they will come back from Hajj, and this is the last thing I'm going to run up with. They'll come back from Hajj, and Sophia to bint Huyay, one of his wives, Baraka bi Sophiyata bint Huyay, Jamaluha. A camel became tired, and so he couldn't move again. Then she started crying because they were still far away from Medina. So Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba to wait, and he went to one of his wives and asked her to give Sophia one of her camels. He said to her, Afkiri ukhtaki jamalan. Lend one of your camels to your sister. And she looked Rasul in the eye and said, Ufkiru yahudiyatak. Should I lend my camel to your Yahudi wife? Because she has, one of our background is Yahud, Yahudiya. And then the Sultan has warned them never to use that to insult her again. But this woman looked the Prophet in the eye and said that, Ufkiru Yahudiyatak, should I lend my camel to your Yahudi wife? That was so insulting. And then the Rasul did not talk to her throughout the Zulhijjah, throughout Muharram, until Safar. Until Safar. He didn't talk to her for close to 3 months, until Safar. So I'm saying that women are naturally going to behave like this, but how we manage them is the most important thing. Is the most important thing. Don't also forget that there is a narration that the Rasul had to leave his house for them for close to a month. He was sleeping in the masjid. And Abu Bakr and Umar came and said, Ya Rasulullah, have you divorced your wives? And he said, no, I have not divorced them. Don't also forget that the Prophet once divorced Hafsa, the daughter of Umar, and then, took her back. The hadith was supported by Umar himself. So, among several other things. So, being the best of men to our wives actually requires sacrifice. Wallah, we need to sacrifice. Do not treat a woman based on her character. Rather, treat her because it is an act of ibadah. Consider marriage as an act of ibadah. Almighty Allah will always say, Wattaqullah. Wattaqullah. Nisa'ukum harithun lakum. Fatu harithakum anna shi'tum wa qaddimu li anfusikum wa taqullah. So at all points in time, let us consider our relationship to our wives as an act of ibadah and treat them accordingly. And this is the only way to be the best of men. But if you are expecting your wife to admit that you are the best of husbands, my brother, you may be on a very long thing. So sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.
Appreciate your submission. We are indeed very grateful. I believe a lot of points have been made as it concerns the marital concerns of our wives, and even from the hand of the husband. So Doctor made some very key points. I just want to quickly run through them. Poor and ineffective communication is a major concern, mostly from the hand of the wives. Economic and financial concerns, non-concentration, non-commendation, and non-overlooking errors. These are some of the issues, and they also mention issues on balancing between our relatives and our wives, amongst other issues. It's been really a thought-provoking lecture. Even I have taken notes of so many things, and I believe these are all important for us to become best of men. Jazakumullah khairan, Doctor. We will be having question and answer, but before that, I want us to also have the second session to be handled by Dr. Sulaiman Ogumiwa, the lead counselor of MSCI, after which we now take a general question and answer session. So Dr. Sulaiman will also be discussing with us around the same issue within the next 20 minutes before we go to the question and answer session. Doctor, sir.
AQ, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, very audible, sir. We can hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. I want to first and foremost appreciate Dr. Sanusi Lafiaji. This is the first time that we are going to share the same platform together. I must tell you, I have a lot of respect for you, and from what I have listened to you in the past few minutes. I think you are doing a great work, and I look forward to more collaboration between us. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. The second presenter is supposed to be Barrister Sahi, but he has not been, we have not been able to communicate since yesterday evening. We apologize for this, but we hope you will join us before the end of this morning session, or maybe tomorrow. And I really don't have a presentation, but I just have to stand in. So Dr. Lafiaji has told us a lot about the prophet and his home, and how he has been able to teach us a lot of lessons. One thing that I picked from there is that the marriage of the prophet is the manifestation of all our own marriages combined together. I mean, the marriage of the prophet is the reality of all our marriages. There's nothing that is going on in your home that the Prophet has not experienced. And I think this morning I have better understood this particular verse of the Quran, that in the life of the prophet, you have all the best of examples. I'm going to start with a lot of, I just want to appeal. I have been a marriage counselor for a very long time. I've interacted with so many families. And I just want to use this opportunity to appeal to our husbands. We are the one that holds the key to the success of our marriages. And I'd like to bring up this scenario, that marriage is a company owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he chose us to be CEO. We accepted to be CEO. In fact, we are the ones that told Allah that we want to be CEO. Allah, give me this company, I will be the CEO. Now, for all marriages, every man, every husband is the CEO, and we accepted to be. And the next thing for us is to say that for us to be able to run this company, I need a junior partner. I need a partner, I need a companion. Now, we went to appeal to our wives to marry us, to come and join us to run this company. They were not the ones that wrote us. We were the ones that begged them and did a lot of things to impress them. We gave them a lot of promises to say, come and join me. I will definitely, treat you well in running this company. Therefore, my conclusion is, if your marriage decides to crash, it is you, the husband, that has made it to crash, because you are the CEO. And if anybody is going to be blamed, you are the first person that will be blamed. Now, take for example, you have a multi corporation, and you get a CEO to run it for you, and the company start to nosedive. Who do you first go to? Definitely, it is the CEO. You are the person in charge. So what is happening? If that person can give a reasonable advice, a reasonable reason to tell us why this is happening, in most cases, it's the CEO that will do it. I want to join us to please see our marriage as our company and try as much as possible to try and ensure that we make our marriage work. May Allah make it easy for each and every one of us. Now, I will be giving some general advice. And this particular slide is talking to us about Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is an hadith on which we have created this forum. The basis of the caption for this program is from the, words of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said, the best of you is he who is best to his family. And I am the best amongst you to my family. This is a strong affirmation. The prophet is not mixing word at all. The best amongst you are those who are best to their families. And I am the best. The prophet is saying it categorically that I am the best. And from what has been said, we have been able to see a lot of examples in the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and how he related with his wives. Moving forward, we have to be merciful and beneficial. The Prophet ﷺ was asked, who is the best amongst people? And he replied, the best of people are those who are most beneficial to people. Now, I am looking at this from the perspective of the Prophet relating with other people. Even though he has said in relating with his own family, he does more than that with them. I hope you understand my perspective. If he's saying that I am the best amongst you with all level of certainty because I am the best to them, if you now look at what he's doing to other people, it means that is not the best he is doing to them. It means that if he does one thing to people outside his home, he will do two to people within his home. Now, if you ask me, or you ask any one of us, we tend to be better outside than we are in the home. This is a contrary, it's contradiction. We seem to be good to people outside our homes, and when we get into the home, we become something else. This is not the sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The sunnah of the Prophet is that he will do twice of what he will do for people outside, he will do it in the home. Hence, the Prophet was a mercy to all, and it is expected that all of us who are his followers will also show mercy and kindness towards others. And look at this particular example. He said, this kindness and mercifulness of Allah will remain with us until the day of judgment. And his mercy can never be restricted. There's no way you can say that for this woman, I'm not going to show mercy towards her. I'm going to be wicked towards my wife. This is totally unacceptable. There is nothing like wickedness there. And in Ayati, that Allah told us three things: tranquility, love, and mercy. And Allah told us in one of these that, tranquility will decrease, love will diminish, but he said mercy must always be there. The day you stop showing mercifulness or showing mercy to your wife or to your husband, that is the day you start to become a wicked person. So a man prayed to Allah one day and said, "Oh Allah, shower mercy to me and Muhammad and not to anyone else." Jesus said, "No, don't make such dua." He said, "Do not make such dua, but ask him to show mercy to all." That brothers in Islam, I'm joining you, I'm advising you, I'm pleading with you that we should go back home and show more mercy to our wives, and we should be more beneficial to them. Can you imagine what Muslim did to his family? Even though family is our, do you know that even the things we have in Hadith will not be exhaustive of the kind of things the Prophet did in his home? So let us be kind, let us be just, let us be honest, modest, truthful, generous, ethical, and patient with our wives. Because this is what the Prophet ﷺ demonstrated with people and double demonstrated it at home. The Prophet ﷺ said, speak a word, speak a good word, or remain silent. And I think some of these things Dr. Lafiagi has also touched. Speak a good word or remain silent. Don't say things that are hurtful to your wives. Don't say things that are going to make them very sad. Let us watch whatever that we say. Look at it. There was a time the Prophet was sitting down with a group of people, and a poor man came to him and gave him a bunch of grapes. And he ate them all without offering, to anyone. And after the poor man left, one of the companions now asked Rasulullah, said, how come you ate all the grapes by yourself and did not even offer any one of us that are present with you here? Because this is what you used to do. Why didn't you offer us? Prophet smiled and said, I ate all the grapes by myself because the grapes were sour. And if I would have offered you, you will have made funny faces, and that will have hurt the feeling of that poor man. I thought to myself that it is better that I eat all of them cheerfully and please the poor man. I did not want to hurt the feeling of that poor man. Please don't hurt the feeling of that poor wife of yours. Why don't you be like the Prophet ﷺ and try as much as possible to protect your wife from making her sad, protect your wife from doing things that will make her to become unhappy. A white has no superiority over black, nor a black has any superiority over whites, except by piety and good action. Now, to explain this, look at this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is going to tell us, how do we relate with our wives at home? We have to reduce all this master, servant, I am the wife, I am the master, I am this. Let us reduce it. Once after a long journey, Rasulullah sallam and his companions laid off their rights, and they decided that they would sacrifice a lamb for their dinner. One by one, everybody started taking responsibility for work. Remember, all of them were in a journey with the Prophet ﷺ. They were all tired. So when they laid off their rights, they decided, let us take a lamb for dinner. And one of them said, I will sacrifice the lamb. Another one said, I will skin it. Another one said, I will cook it. Then Rasulullah ﷺ said, I will gather the wood from the desert. Then the companions now told, he said, oh, Messenger of Allah, it is not becoming of you to discomfort yourself as such. You rest. We will be honored to do all this on our own. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I know that you are eager to do it all. But Allah isn't pleased with the slave who distinguishes himself and his companions and consider himself better than others. You go to work, your wife goes to work, she comes back and starts the cooking. I can't count the number of times Dr. Sanusi Lafiagi referred to the fact that when I get home, I take my shower, I go to my wife in the kitchen. How many times have you gone to the kitchen to help your wife? Let us, I am pleading with us, let us try as much as possible. Even though I know some men who cannot even boil water. If you cannot boil water, you can still go to the kitchen and support your wife in washing the plates, in cleaning the tables, or in sharing her up. Be a supporter of your wife, and tell her how neat the kitchen is. Tell her how you love to see her, sweating in the kitchen and doing all of this work. Share her out and tell her, well done for all that she's doing. Again, Allah has revealed to me, that is Rasulullah, that you must be humble towards one another. No matter who you are, even if you are the president, you have your wife, be humble towards your wife. No matter who you are, even if you are the one paying all the bills, be humble towards your wife. And look at this. He said once on a very hot afternoon, the Prophet Muhammad was going somewhere when he saw an old woman carrying a luggage on her head. He went to her and carried the luggage for her and asked about where she was going and why. Then she told him that she was leaving town because there is a magician in town named Muhammad. And the Prophet remained quiet. When they reached the destination of the old woman, the old woman said, "Oh, kind person, at least you should tell me your name." And Nabi al-Karim, Muhammad said, "I am the person because of whom you left the town." She was so shocked that such a kind person can never be a magician. So she embraced Islam. Your wife will love you more if you show this level of humility. Wives will appreciate their husband much later in life if you treat them well. All the goodness that you have done, all the humility that you have done, when both of you were growing up and raising children, and you have heavy house chores, you have heavy responsibilities, if you are humble, your wife will be with you and serve you in old age. If you are not, your wife will leave you because your children, one of your kids will be in America, one in Saudi, one in Qatar, one in Kuwait. Each of them will give birth and your wife will leave you several times of the year. You go and do Omogo. And you know what? There are some women who will not want to go and say that I will go for just 1 week because I cannot leave your father. If we tell our children, I cannot leave your father because your father has been a good person to us. But it is some children will be telling their mother, "Mommy, ever see me, come and rest. At least stay away from all the wahala of our father." If you are humble, just like the Prophet was able to win the heart of this woman because of his humility. You do it, after a time, your wife will come to appreciate you, understand you, love you more, and give you a lot of respect. And above all, and serve you till death will do you apart. Again, a Muslim shall never leave another Muslim helpless in the time of need. Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A Muslim shall never leave another Muslim helpless in the time of need. And how do I explain this? Now, Prophet Muhammad once saw a slave crying while he was grinding grains. And Muhammad became very anxious and asked him why he was crying. And he replied, "I am sick. I cannot grind the grain. My master is very cruel, and he will beat me if I cannot finish my job." Listening to this, Prophet Muhammad moved forward and grinded the rest of the grains and told the slave and said, "Always call me. If you have any grain to grind, I will do it for you." Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was a slave that Prophet saw crying. How many times has your wife cried because of her inability to do one thing or the other? How did you respond to it? Remember, Prophet said a Muslim shall never leave another Muslim helpless in the time of need. I have seen wives complaining that even when I am sick, my husband is not even there to cater for me. somebody will say that when I am sick, you don't even believe that I am sick, because you want to compare her and see that, don't you know that woman? She was pregnant, and up till the last day, she was still going to fetch water. Before, it was the following day, no, she fetched water in the morning and went to the hospital in the evening and gave birth in the night. She won't be on any air. Are there no other slaves? Even when they are sick, they are still working, and they are not crying. But this particular slave was crying. That's what I'm saying. Do not ever abandon another person, not to talk about your wife. I want to appeal strongly.
Probably conclude the session. However, at this point in time, we want to appreciate him for his wonderful delivery. I believe we have all taken major points from his delivery as well, together with that of Dr. Sanusi Lafiaji. They have both made wonderful points, and key point that can make us to be best of men from the discussion that we were having, or that Dr. Ogumiwa was having with us before his network got disrupted. He made mention of the fact that we need to be a supporter of our wives. We should not just leave them to do everything on their own. It's understandable that sometimes you go out, you get tired and all. We should also keep in mind that our wives sometimes also, in fact, a lot of times, we may have some wives who go out, one thing or the other as well, some people going to work and all. So we should be empathic with them, should be sympathetic, or we should ensure to assist them. We also made mention of the fact that we need to be humble as much as we are the CEO of the company of our house. We also need to do that. We also need to exert that authority humbly, so that we're going to have a fruitful and a beneficial home, and we're going to be best of men. So these are some of the key points. He made mention of the fact that we need to be merciful and beneficial, and a whole lot of other points, and cited various examples from the life of the Prophet Salam, where we can learn one or two things, or pick one or two lessons as to some of the points he has made, being merciful and all. At this point in time, we will be moving to the next thing on the agenda, but I can see that Doctor is back. Probably we just give him the remaining 4 minutes to conclude the speech, his discussion, before we take question and answer. Dr. Gumiwasa, we want to over back to you to conclude.
My sincere apologies. I forgot to plug my laptop, so all of a sudden the battery went flat.
Wow.
I'm so
okay,
sorry.
Sir. No problem, sir. About 4 minutes more.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so I am done with this issue of a slave that was grinding and so. Okay, so again, the Prophet ﷺ said, those who are merciful have mercy shown them by the compassionate one. Said, if you show mercy to those who are on earth, he who is in heaven will show mercy to you. And to explain this, the Prophet ﷺ, if you look at the story of what happened at Taif, when the Prophet ﷺ was stoned, he went there to appeal to them, he was stoned. And he left there with blood on his body, and 2 angels came to him and said, Taif is a small town between the valleys. Just command that we should crush them, and all of them will go. The Prophet was merciful. He said no. He said, if these people don't accept me, maybe generations after them will accept me. And this is exactly what happened. Now, when we go for Umrah, Taif is one of the places we visit, to say, great things there, and see people there who have the love of Rasulullah in their hearts. If you look at the conquest of Mecca, Jerusalem showed mercy towards Hind and Ashi, who killed Hamza. So no matter what your wife will have done, or anyone will have done, please let us show mercy towards them. I guess a man's true words is a good that he does in this world. Rasul said, a man's good wealth, true wealth, is the good he does in this world. And Abu Dhar al-Ghifari said, I was working with the Prophet in Orahi, a volcanic region of Medina, and we faced the Mount Uhud. Abu Dhar said, oh, Abu Dhar. He said, here I am, O Messenger of Allah. And he said, it will not please me to have a mountain of gold equal to the weight of Mount Uhud until I spend and give it out for the sake of Allah within a night or within three nights. So when you have, let your wives know. Don't let it be only when you don't have. When you have, let your wife know that you have. In fact, in my house, there's this tradition. Anytime I go out for a presentation and they give me 10,000 naira, I'll come back home. My wife knows that we are going to share it. I take 70%, my wife will take 30%. If they give me 100,000, my wife will take 30,000. She knows it. This is the envelope. She will take out of it. And I think if we do this, Allah will really help us. See, my conclusion is, how do you treat her? Let us treat her well. I wish that our case would not be like this woman. Like this treated by Ibn Umar. Several said, a woman entered hellfire because of a cat, which she tied, neither giving it food nor setting it free, to eat from the vermin of the heart. Now, scholars have explained that this woman was a believing woman, but she will enter hellfire because of her cruelty towards animals. Now, if you are the man, you are the man. The woman owns the key to marriage, but you hold the key to divorce. And you said, I won't divorce you, and I'm going to continue to punish you. Please don't do that. Don't let your case be like the case of this woman. You have a right over, she has a right over the cat and ties the cat. And you're not giving the cat food. You're not setting the cat free to go and eat from other places. Your wife is there. You're not making her happy. You're not setting her free. May Allah save us from hellfire. Imam Buhari also gave us a narration, and he said, whoever slaughtered an animal or a fowl, show mercy by sharpening the wife properly so that the animal may be spared from suffering. And Allah will show mercy to him on the day of judgment. That is, whosoever does this. So if this is for animals, if you now do it to your wife, if you do it to other human beings, what do you think is going to happen to you? Allah is definitely going to show mercy to you on the day of judgment. And I once had a great scholar. Every time he wants to start his lecture, he will say, oh Allah, I know my salat, my sahur, my zakat, my hajj cannot take me to paradise. The only that can take me to paradise is your mercy. And this is mercy coming from Allah to us, just for us to be able to show mercy to those who are in our homes. I want to end by reminding us again that Rasul said, the best of you is he who is best to his family. And he said, I am the best amongst you to my family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us to be best to our wives, to our children, and also make our marriage to be good examples to those who are living around us. In هذه تذكرة فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه سبيل وكل قول هذا واستغفر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Apologies for the
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. It's really been a wonderful one. I believe we have picked so many points today regarding getting ourselves to a stage of being a best of man or the best of men to our wives in our various houses, in our various homes. We pray to Allah to make that easy for us. I have mentioned some of the key points that I made earlier. We should be truthful. kind, just, honest, modest, and we should be patient, and we should be ethical with our wives as well. And we should be a supporter of our wives, and be merciful and beneficial to them. So I think at this junction, we will now be taking questions from the house for our speakers to attend to. I believe this question and answer session is also a form of a some sort of workshop. We want to share what's happening at your end so that you can have some form of practical advice or guide on how to navigate them in your home. So I would expect that we should signify by raising our hand. I can already see Abbas Abdelatif raising his hand. We can signify by raising our hands so that we can take all the questions before our speakers will now begin to answer. Give the next few seconds, say 30 seconds, for us to conclude the session. To signify that we have questions, because I'll take the numbers before I start upon on us to take our questions, so that we're going to have it in an organized manner, and we don't necessarily have a lot of other popping up questions. We may have time to take new questions that pop up, but to make it more organized. So I'll count now. I have Abbas Abdelatif. Sorry, I'll just be calling the name I have on my screen. Abbas Abdelatif, 1, Fuad Akorede 2, Jima Habibullah 3, Saifullah 4, Akinsoya Abdul Bari 5, Toib Jimo 6, Hakim Bello 7, Yusuf Isa 8. So I have 8 hands in total. So I'll start with Abbas Abdelatif. Please proceed with your question and kindly make it as brief as possible. You may skip the introductory or appreciation stages. Just go straight to your question and make it very succinct so that we have time to be able to attend to the questions that we will be having. So, Abbas Abdelatif, you have the floor, please. You can unmute and ask your question. Abbas Abdelatif, are you there? Okay, let me go to Fuad Akorede. Fuad Akorede, please unmute and ask a question.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Yes, we can hear you clearly.
You can hear me clearly. Okay, good. Thank you to our speakers. So my first question is, I want to ask the organizers of this beautiful program, how often is this program going to be coming on? Is this just going to be a one-time thing? Because sincerely speaking, I have been longing for this kind of event where we have only men in the house and we'll be discussing serious issues, especially issues that affect our families and our homes. And my second question is, I have a platform where I host a program with my wife, and I would like to ask for permission to share some of the lessons we have gotten from this so far from this education, because I feel they're very valuable and they're something more people need to learn or hear about. So those are my two questions for now. I don't know if there will be any other opportunity to ask questions later, or maybe for tomorrow's session or something like that. So far, I would say example of thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Jima Habibullah. Please ask your question.
Naam, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. It's really interesting, and it's actually very, very highly educative. And I personally learned a whole lot, even though it was actually my wife that actually paid for me and she just shared me the link to join. So it was like I really enjoyed every part of the session. So I have two questions. The first question is that there's one thing that I do that I felt okay. I think it's not okay because based on the session that I've listened so far, but I want to quickly clarify if truly is not okay. And that thing is that, well, whenever my wife is trying to be kind of a little bit disobedient to what I say or what I told her to do, and I just tell her that, okay, I'm going to you want me to like marry another wife, right? Like I used to like joke with her a lot on that, even though she doesn't really show this person on that. But like anytime I actually said that, I always see that, okay, she tried to, you understand, adjust almost immediately. So I want to know whether it's actually a very good thing to keep saying that, like just once in a while, maybe whenever she's trying to do something not good. That's one question. Second thing is that my wife is of this opinion that she doesn't like to go to kind of like family house during the layer period. And from where I actually came from, like we are a type that would go to this like family house, like to go and celebrate with our families and, you understand, do a lot of things. So she doesn't really like it. So I want to know how do you think I can actually handle that to make her see the reason why it is a necessity? It's not something that, okay, we can actually choose not to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Saifullah, please, your question. Please, you may put down your hands if you have already asked your question so I can see clearly the number of hands remaining up. And Saifullah, are you there? Perhaps I'll go to Akisoya Abdelbari. Please ask your question. Okay, Saifullah is on. So please proceed, Saifullah.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. Afwan, I couldn't unmute myself. I had to seek for permission to be unmuted. My question is this. Especially as young couples and equally as young professionals in our various careers, the biggest challenge I'm facing currently is, work-life balance. Of course, these two things are very important. My family is important to me. I want to have time for them and be with them. But equally, work is also important because that is what we use to support the family, and each of these require a lot of time, especially starting out. So I would like to gain some insight or some ideas as to how to achieve this work-life balance to help bring peace between these two very important areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Saifullah. So I'll go to Abdelbari Akinsoya. Please ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, what do you prefer?
Jazakumullah khairan for this program. I really enjoyed it. Very educative. Now, my own question is, as someone that is intending to marry, is it among the listening, is it advisable to say that, okay, fine, once you get married, responsibility, like let me say the likes of sharing responsibility between your spouse, is he encouraged in Islam? Like say maybe 50-50 or 60-40, like something like that. I don't know if you get my question. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I got that. Soib Jimo, please, can I ask your question? Barry, please, you can put down your hands.